Hey there guys, I've been working on the final boss of Dark Visions 27, trying to get that last Lapis milestone reward, and I have done it. I have worked out a team, rotation, and gearing that gets all the rewards and gets, the final Lapis. In this video, I'll be showing you how I did that. Now, if you can't quite build as strong of a team as me, you can still use the same general idea I'm going to show you to pretty easily get the second to last reward. The final reward does require like a good variance roll and all that. But so here is the score that I did, perfect on everything, and then for the damage I did 28 billion. You need to deal at least 27.41 billion to get the final milestone. Now in this video, I'm going to be going into a little bit more detail than I usually do, so the video might be slightly longer. That's just because I usually don't go anywhere near this in-depth for Dark Visions, because like Dark Visions kind of whatever. But for this one, I really wanted that last milestone, so I spent a long time optimizing and making changes. So I'm going to go over it pretty detailed in this video. If you just want like the turn chart and the gearing, you can use timestamps to skip to the gear. Turn chart will be in the comments. But let's get in here and explain what I did step by step and why I did it. Okay, so the boss on turn 1 does some AoE physical damage and then some AoE magic damage. We're not going to use Mirage on turn 1. So what we're going to do, we're going to use Melissa to do Shelga for the mitigations. We're going to do immunity for the resistance buffs. And then we're going to do uncontrolled darkness to imbue the boss with darkness so we don't take any physical damage this turn. We're going to use Fina to put up the Assurer field. Now we're going to use Olive to do her 85% magic break with Brilliant Splash, because all the damage we take is going to be magical, and the better magic break, the less damage we take, because we're not using a tank. Golbez can do his Jet Black Curse, which is going to put up a 150 Dark Amp on turn 4. And then Rain can just guard. And now Ibarra is going to use Bar Blazega from an item. You can also get that from an Esper. I'll talk more about the gearing and all at the end, but that's going to be really important for Golbez. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So here's the AoE physical and then some elemental damage. We're not really worried about it. Very minimal damage because of Melissa on the party. Okay, turn 2. We're going to use Olive to do stop immunity for the party from Lakshmi. That's because turn 3 the boss does a stop status effect, and we need immunity, and unfortunately Melissa does not buff immunity. Now Melissa is going to use her LB targeting herself. That's going to be general mitigation for the party, very important for the upcoming turns. Also, it's going to lower her cooldown of her modifier buff, which we're going to use on turn 5. Now, we're not going to chain to 100 on the kill turn, so we're going to do that on this turn. So everyone's going to triple Bolting Strike. So Dark Fina will just triple Darkra, Dark Rain will triple Dark Suppression, Golbez will triple Ruler of the Night, and Ibarra will triple Malicious Flash. That's also going to double Mirage the party for the physical damage this turn. Now, because we didn't do like amplifies, imbues, and all that, we're not going to kill the boss, but this is going to deal a decent chunk of damage, but it shouldn't kill the boss. It usually does about 60 to 70% damage right here. There it is, 100 count chain score, good. Now some AoE physical, we Mirage it, some AoE magic, we've got mitigations and all thanks to Melissa, and we're mostly resisting it. Okay, this turn is going to be that AoE stop as well as AoE fixed damage. It's going to deal decent. We'll talk about that more in a second. For now, let's go ahead and get set up. So Ibarra is going to do her base form LB. That's for the 40% Katana Imperil and the killer buff for herself. Make sure you're doing all this before Melissa. Then Olive going to use her SOB for the 90 break. Now the reason we're doing it on this turn is we can't do it on the kill turn because Golbez's Meteor is very slow. We got to click him way before the chainers, meaning we have to do the break before the kill turn. Now we can use Dark Fina's SLB for the stat buff and the LB buff. Dark Rain can do his one and only ruler to get his modifier buff for later. Then Melissa can go ahead and do Abyssal Blessing. That'll be the 100% amp. That'll be active on turn 5. That's going to be our kill turn. And then Golbez can use his magic boost. Now, because the boss does fixed damage this turn, and only fixed damage, we won't counter, so his boost is safe this turn. Now, the damage we do take is going to be relatively painful, but with Olive's magic break and the mitigations from Melissa and the gear we're using, we should take a decent chunk under 5,000 damage. So here is the attack. There we go. I didn't see how much it was, but it should be less than 5,000, so we're overall okay. Now we're going to be killing next turn. So now we're going to go ahead and get ready to set up. So Rain will just triple. We'll use his 150 amp and then double stack his focus. Ibarra can use her Magnus for her amplify in getting ready. Olive is going to quad. Make sure one of the skills is her Beast Killer buff. Then we can use whatever. And then make sure the last action is her Magnus for the focus. Dark Fina is going to triple here. We're going to use Let's Settle This Now for the modifier buff for herself. And then Infernwall. That's going to be a fire and an earth resist buff, which we're going to need. Melissa can do Parasol Shield for the mitigation against Beast in case for the boss's elemental damage this turn. We're going to use Beast Killer on either Rain or Golbez, just one of them. And then the last action doesn't really matter. We can do Immunity again. And then Golbez will focus again. Now, this turn is kind of important. The boss is going to use either 1, 2, 3, or 0 elemental attacks. They're either going to be fire, ice, lightning, or earth. They also include a 60% imperil. So Golbez, well actually we're imperiled to all 4 already. That won't be the case. But with the gear we're using, and with that Barb Lazega on turn 1, we are still, even while imperiled, we are still immune to fire, ice, and earth on Golbez. Now, we are not immune to lightning. If the boss uses lightning, there is a chance Golbez will counter with Barrier Shift. If the boss does use lightning and we counter with Barrier Shift, it kind of sabotages your run because Golbez will lose his focus. If the boss doesn't use lightning, or if he does and Golbez doesn't counter, you're fine. So fingers crossed the boss just doesn't use lightning, or we don't counter it. So ice, fire, that's fine. We're not going to counter those. No risk of losing your focus. Okay, so we're good to go. Now we're going to kill the boss. Before we do that, though, let's go ahead and shift Ibarra to the shift form. And now let's go ahead and use Melissa for the final round of buffs. Because we used her LB on herself, her seconds of support is now ready on turn 5. We're going to use this on Ibarra. It's a modifier buff for morale scaling LBs, which is only Ibarra for this party. Then we're going to use Beast Killer on the person that we didn't do it on yet, which is Golbez. Don't do it on Ibarra. Ibarra has her own 250 killer already active. And then for the last action, it doesn't really matter what we do. We'll just use Dartga for like a tiny speck of bonus damage. Because this is going to be the burst turn. And this little bitty baby damage we just did is going to be added to your score. And if you become like, 500 damage short, you'll be glad you'll be glad you did that with Melissa. Anyway, now it is time to burst the boss. The way we're going to do it, we're going to use Ibarra's shifted LB. And notice at the top of the screen on this turn, we've got a 90 Spirit Break, a 150 Dark Imperil, a 40 Katana Imperil. Ibarra is at 550 Beast Killer from her own LB earlier in the fight. Dark Rain, same thing, 550 Magical Beast Killer. We're using a gun on him. I'll talk more about gearing later, but there we go. Golbez, notice Golbez is at 600 Beast Killer. Yes, I went all in for this fight. We overcapped our Ifrit, and our Ifrit now has the Galvanite killers as well. So we're going to use the Meteor on Golbez. Olive is going to just use the Ayaka Vision card. Now, Fina, or Dark Fina, is going to quad Darkra. Because of her global exclusive buffs, her Darkra is slightly higher damage than the Vision card if you don't have time to use like Magical Focus, and we didn't. So here we go. Okay, so the timing is going to be, Golbez is going to be clicked first. Once the screen goes dark from Meteor, just chain everybody else, and you should get a 76 count chain if you did it correctly. Now, the team's calculations will do anywhere from as low as 22 billion damage to as high as 30 billion damage at a perfect roll. Most of the runs are about 24 to 26 billion damage, but we need 27.4 or better, and if we don't get it, which we're probably not going to, I'm going to show you a recap of when I did get it, on a higher variance roll. So we're going to click Golbez, we're going to wait till the screen goes dark, then we're going to chain the rest, and here we go. So one of these hits is going to be Ibarra. Ibarra did 8.1. That's a pretty low roll, so this is definitely not going to be a damage cap run. But I'll show you a replay of the damage cap run. 24.3. That was a really bad run. You're going to get that. You're going to get a lot of bad runs because variance on this fight is super irritating. But I'll real quick show you the breakdown of that attempt, and then I will show you So here you go. So our damage received score is flawless, and we did 2.288. Here's the breakdown. Golbez rolled average. Dark Rain rolled very low. Bad Dark Rain. Ibarra also rolled very low. So both of them, shame on y'all. So that was that run. Now let me go ahead and load up. Let me see if I can get this loaded properly. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a replay of my damage cap run, or my good enough run. Okay, so here we go. Here was the turning, the chain turn, and we bursted. And right here, let me pause real quick. Boom. There was Ibarra's hit. So Ibarra rolled high that time. And this is a little bit of a problem, is Ibarra, her max potential, as you can see here, is 10 billion damage. I actually lost damage on this run because Ibarra should have dealt even more damage, but she can only deal up to a max of 10 billion. Thankfully, it was okay because the whole party rolled high. And then we did more damage, and here we go. And this was my I keep calling it a rank. It's not really rank 1, but my maximum reward run. Boom. We did 28 billion damage on the run, and I'll keep playing the replay until we get to the breakdown, and you can see what everyone did. So there it was, my 331 score. That got me to whatever, and there it is. So in this run, my good run, as you can see, Ibarra, well, she rolled high and she got the damage cap. So she could have rolled, she could have gone even higher, but whatever. And the reason it's showing 10 because we did a little bit of damage earlier in the fight. Golbez and Dark Rain both did above 7. That's good rolls for them. And then Olive and Fina did 2.1 and 1.6, which is kind of whatever. But there it is, and that was my 28 billion of the 27.4 needed. And at the time, I went to rank 40. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop back to the main game where I will show you my gearing. Okay, let's go to the gear. Where are we at? Okay. So, first of all, I recommend the Espers be done kind of Golbez on Ifrit. You don't have to, but I feel like Ifrit is a good thing for Golbez just because it lets him gear pretty well for this fight. Let's see. So we need stop immunity on someone. So we put, what's it called? Lakshmi on Olive because she is one of the low damage dealers. You have to put Ashura on Dark Fina for the field. Bahamut is for the killer on Dark Rain because you'll see the gearing. And then the leftover is for Ibarra. Now, I put her on Leviathan because it's just the highest magic Esper I have. If you don't have the Hasami scroll that I'm going to show you in a minute, put her on Carbuncle with the Barb Lazega spell learned. Anyway, we'll talk about unit swaps in a second. So, first of all, one important thing is Ifrit. I have went ahead and gotten all the Galvanite killers on Ifrit. Yes, this took like 2,500 extra overflow points, but I did it. It was a huge amount of Esper ore, but this fight was irritating me. Not to mention the next Clash of Wills is a beast as well, so this is going to be useful. So yes, I did use a ton of Esper ore and Galvanite on Ifrit to make this happen. Let's go back to the party. Okay, so Golbez, the gear we're using, he's using a katana. Katana because of the 40% katana in peril from Ibarra. Now, this is important. We have 80 ice resist, and we're getting that from being on Ifrit, gives you -50. Golbez has 30 naturally. We're getting 20 more from the Corundrum Helm, and we're getting 80 from the Cursed Doll. That gives us exactly 80 ice resist, plus 80 more from the Barb Lazega spell, gives us 160. And then after the boss is 60% in peril, we are still immune to ice. We're getting a 100 earth resist buff from Dark Fina, which makes us immune to earth. He's naturally immune to the fire on this current build. So only thunder damage on turn 4 can potentially trigger any counters. If you can't gear your Golbez the same as me, for example, you can't gear as much ice resist, then you'll just have to just RNG and hope you don't counter on turn 4 with his dumbass barrier shift that I hate. But with this build, only Thunder has a chance to mess up your focus. Anyway, so, oh, and give him his Curse armor, and the reason for that is the 150 Dark Imperil, which is obviously our best Imperil on the party. So there it is. Other than that, you know, a source of the equipped katana, killers, magic boost, and obviously the meteor card. So mine is at 6,200 MP, 10.3 magic. Also, mine is only level 120. If you decide to level 130 him, he'll deal a good chunk more damage. I'm just very cheap. And he's at 350 beast killer. Remember the overflow killers. Dark Rain is using a gun. Based on my calculations, I compared a dual-wielded spear build, I compared a double-handed spear build, and I compared a double-handed katana build, and I compared a double-handed gun build. Based on the gear I'm using and my personal calculations, the gun build is actually slightly better than the double-handed spear build, just because guns have better variants. And yeah, and it's also slightly better than the dual-wield build, based on, again, my calculations. So we're using Floral Hairpin for a 50 beast killer. He's getting 50 more killer from Bahamut. His resists don't really matter, honestly. Make sure he's got decent spirit if you can. I mean, just, you know, Dorpot is spirit. So here's the build we're using. Hateful Agent, Magic Boost, his own card. And there it is. And, oh my god, I didn't Dorpot his spirit. Whoops. I actually did on Golbez for taking... I forgot to do Rain. Whoopsie. Oh well. Maxed LB and maxed Magical Beast Killer. Okay, Ibarra in the base form is using full Hisami Scroll because it gives us an 80% ice resist buff. This is a limited item, and if you don't have that, you can get that from Carbuncle instead. Her magic will go slightly down on Carbuncle instead of Leviathan, but not that much. Or again, you could forget the whole ice resist thing and just RNG it and hope the boss doesn't use ice on turn 4. Other than that, give her a lot of resist and bulk, because we stay in the base form for the most part, and don't give her any damage in the base form if possible, because we don't want to like kill the boss or anything. Also, a lot of Esper fills. We do want to summon an Esper on turn 1, so we want 5 copies of Bahamut Synergy spread across the party. So 3 of them are on her. And then Shift form is damage. So just LB damage. I even went all in. I made the stupid Emperor's Ring because I really just wanted to deal. I wanted to get this fight over with, so I went there. Also, we are using the Cool Smile card. Don't forget about this card. It does work on Ibarra, and based on my calculations, this is actually a damage gain because we do kill the boss within the first 5 turns. So that's a 50 extra modifier buff for her LB if you kill the boss by turn 5, and we did. So here's the setup. She is maxed on everything. 15,000 attack power and maxed LB and maxed Beast. Now, if you happen to have her own vision card, that is better than Cool Smile because of the higher magic. But if you don't have her vision card, you know, my calculations say Cool Smile is slightly better. Olive is using just damage. A little... Okay, so Olive's spirit is absolutely garbage, which is a real problem. Definitely make sure you Dorpot her spirit, And I'm using things like Heinz Hat and Conundrum Suit for more resistance because, like, oh my god, like, she takes so much damage. And she can actually sometimes fail your damage taken score if the boss uses too many elemental attacks because her spirit is so freaking bad. But here it is. I did give her a double source of chain speed. You know, you don't have to do that, but I find that it helps a little bit. And then we're using the vision card for chaining. You know, I definitely like this vision card for her because, you know, we can't use her SOB on the kill turn. Dark Fina is using a damage build. You definitely gear her for damage. You know, gear her for damage, door pot her, magic, etc. Here's the build. She has no chain cap at all, so you got to give her 2 sources. So either Magister's Ring or Regina's STMR, and then Lightning's STMR. Again, chain speed, Barbaricious Spirit, and we're using her. We're using her Darkra because her Trust passive gives a 500x modifier to her things. And that makes quad casting Darkra actually more modifier than the Vision card. There we go. And again, you could use like Dark Rain's TMR and then the Ayaka card, but I don't have enough Dark Rain TMRs to go around, so I went with a Darkra build, and there it is. And then Melissa, irrelevant really, honestly irrelevant. Who cares? Just Spirit, resist, and then give her some sources of Esper Fill so that we can summon an Esper on turn 1. And there it is. There's the clear. Turn chart will be in the comments. Now, as far as unit swaps, if you have Lynx, Lynx can replace Dark Rain, and then you could replace Dark Fina with Vlad. So Lynx would still bring the field, and then you could use Vlad instead of Dark Fina. Vlad could sing Zidane's STMR on turn 1, 2, and 3. Turn 4, use his field, and turn 5, he would use a Vision card chain to deal some damage. If you do have Dark Fina but don't have a good Dark Rain, you could use Shantoto. Actually, Shantoto's better regardless. So if you do have Shantoto, she's just flat out better than Dark Rain, period. Assuming she's the same EX level. If you don't have Golbez, go UOC him. If you don't have Ibarra, this party won't work for you. Olive, there's no good replacement. You know, Louise is just way worse than Olive for damage. And if you don't have Melissa, the party won't work for you. So yeah, so Ibarra, Olive, and Melissa are kind of required for this party. Golbez is UOCable. Dark Rain and Dark Fina are flexible. If you have like Shantoto or Lynx, you can swap them out and get Vlad in here. Okay. Hope it helped. It does require a good variance roll. Keep that in mind. You know, so don't try this twice and think, oh, it's not working. You know, I had to run this fight a lot of times to get a 28 billion score, but it worked. I did it. Got all my lapis. Okay. See you next time.